The truth about modern Buddhism. Most people get this wrong. The Dhamma doesn't change. That's one of the reasons why it's said to be Akaliko, timeless. The Buddha was wise enough to see what in his mind was universal. That's one of the reasons why Buddhism was the first world religion. It didn't have anything to do with any tribe or somebody's vision of a spirit who came and spoke especially to one group of people. It focuses on a universal problem and a universal solution. The problem is the suffering we cause ourselves. The principles by which we do that were the same in India in the Buddha's time as they are now. So even though the Dhamma may not have lots of new things to tell you with the passing of time, that's actually one of its virtues. Its lessons stay the same. I appreciated this when I was staying with Ajahn Fuang, that once you learned the principles, you could live by them. He was the sort of person who wasn't going to change things just to please people. And it wasn't that people weren't making demands. We think that it's only in the West where people talk about changes in the Dhamma. But it's been happening in Thailand and other Asian countries for centuries. This has to change, that has to change. To the point where the traditions of Thai and Laotian Buddhism were so far removed from the Dhamma that when Ajahn Mun was trying to go back to the original principles, they accused him of being out of line. The image given in the canon is of a drum. At first it sounds resonant. It's made out of a solid piece of wood, and the sound goes far. But then a crack develops in the wood, so you insert a peg in the crack. Another crack, another peg, another crack, another peg, until finally the drum is nothing but pegs. When you beat it, you can barely hear it. In other words, the changes that are sometimes brought to the Dhamma may seem to be a good fix for the time being, but then it turns out that they don't really have the same impact. They don't really have the same power as what the Buddha originally taught. So we have to keep coming back to the same old principles all over again, to the same problem, the suffering we're causing ourselves, and to the same solution, the noble eightfold path. The Buddha calls these truths noble because, as he said, they are factual, true, and not otherwise than what they seem. There's another passage in the canon saying that the truths are noble because they're taught by the Noble One, i.e. the Buddha. Some people have said that in that case, they must be true only for noble people. They're not true for us, but that's not so. They're true for everybody. As the Buddha said, they're categorical, which means they're always true, always beneficial, no matter where you go. There are only two of his teachings that he said were categorical: the Four Noble Truths and the teaching that skillful qualities should be developed and unskillful ones should be abandoned. The two principles come together because the Noble Truths are not just ideas that sit there. Each truth has a duty. The cause of suffering, the cause of stress, is something that should be abandoned. The path is something that should be developed. So the Four Truths take those two principles of skillful and unskillful qualities and divide them up into cause and effect. The cause of suffering is something you abandon. The suffering itself is something you want to comprehend. The path is something you develop. The cessation of suffering that's found at the end of the path is something you want to realize for yourself. So these are noble duties. And one of the reasons the truths are noble is because they make us noble. Usually, when you look at your suffering, all you can think of is to try to push it away, and then you hold on to your craving at the same time you're trying to push away results of the craving. There's nothing really noble about that attitude. It's dishonest. What's noble is when you realize that the way I feed, the way I cling to things, that's the suffering. I've got to do something about that. That attitude is a noble one. You're pulling away from your old feeding habits. You're taking a good look at them. It's in adopting that attitude that you get on the right path. Your search for happiness becomes a noble surge. So always keep these principles in mind. These principles make sure that your path is on the path. Let's put it that way. What you're doing is actually leading to where you want it to go, and not wandering someplace else. We chant every night. The Dhamma is well taught, timeless, to be seen here and now. And it's the same Dhamma, every day, every day, every day. The problem is, sometimes our attitude is in line with it, and sometimes it's not. You become mature in the Dhamma when you realize you've begun to stray off the path, and you can bring yourself back. If we had lots of different Dhammas, it'd be hard to do that. With today's Dhamma, you might like this particular style, and another day, another particular style. This is one of the reasons why the Buddha said that when counterfeit Dhamma appears, the true Dhamma disappears. The concept that there is one true Dhamma is gone because there are lots of different clamoring voices. This is one of the problems of living in a time when the true Dhamma has disappeared in that sense. You can always find a version of the Dhamma that will please whatever defilement you have. But when you're honest with yourself and you look at what gets developed in the mind as you follow a particular interpretation or as you latch onto a particular idea, you can begin to gain a sense of what actually is the true Dhamma. Then the true Dhamma is still there. The analogy the Buddha gives is with genuine money and counterfeit money. When counterfeit money floods the market, genuine money disappears. It's still there, it's just that people get very dubious. But there are tests for genuine money that counterfeit doesn't pass. And the same with the Dhamma. Remember the principles the Buddha taught to his stepmother. Does this Dhamma lead to dispassion? Does it lead to being unfettered? Does it rouse your energy? Does it make you content with external things? Does it make you shed things that are unskillful? Does it make you unburdensome? Does it make you modest, unentangled? If it does, that's the Dhamma. The genuine Dhamma will pass the test. It's simply that we have to make ourselves good judges, judges we can rely on. This is one of the reasons why we meditate to develop a lot of mindfulness and alertness, to make ourselves reliable in our judgments. The alertness is important because it's so easy to lie to yourself. That was one of Ajahn Chah's comments. One of the first things you notice as you really start watching the mind is how much it lies to itself. But we can get past that. That's the meaning of that image the Buddha had about the mind being luminous while the defilements come and go, just like the sun. The sun is luminous. Even when the sun is covered by clouds, the sun itself is still luminous. There is a quality of the mind that can know even when the defilements are there. Luminous here doesn't mean it's pure, and doesn't mean we're already awakened, but it does mean this knowing quality. You can observe. You can see for yourself what you're doing. You can catch the mind if your mindfulness and alertness are continuous. You can catch the mind when it's lying to itself. So we develop these qualities that enable us to rely on ourselves to be good judges. Of course, as we develop the qualities to be good judges, we also develop the qualities to be good Dhamma practitioners. Every day, make sure that your intention is in line with the Dhamma, whose intention is for freeing the mind. Look for ways in which the mind ties itself down. How does it do it? Through its passions. We keep running up against this principle that the things to which we cling most, the things we're most passionate about, are the things that make us suffer. Those are the things that tie us down. So of course it's going to go against the grain to practice. But there's a part of the mind that realizes that not practicing goes very strongly against another grain, which is the part of the mind that really wants to be free. That's tired of the ways in which it has been making itself suffer. That's the side of the mind you want to encourage. You want to make sure that it doesn't get buried under all the other voices inside. So try to make your practice timeless. That's the only way you're going to know the timeless Dhamma. Ajahn Fuang had that comment one time in one of the few Dhamma talks he gave that was recorded to a large group of people he had never met before. He wanted to give them a message that would stay with them. And this was the message: that as we live our lives, as long as we keep dividing our time up into different times, we'll never know the timeless Dhamma. At the same time, we have to remember that we don't have much time. So if you want to know the timeless Dhamma, you've got to make your practice timeless and have a very strong sense that you've got to do it right now. You can't put it off. Ajahn Mahabhuwa once made a comment that people who think that rebirth would be a good thing don't really understand rebirth. It's scary. Everything gets pulled away from you, all the things you depended on in this lifetime. And you may have some good that you've done, but you don't know what karma you've got from the past. The possibility for falling is very strong, but we do have this life right here, right now. We do have this opportunity right here, right now. When we think of the word timeless, we tend to visualize a long stretch of time, away from right here, right now. But no, timelessness is right here, right now. Those two things are strongly connected, that you've got to practice timelessly right now. If you're at work in the kitchen, you're practicing right now. If you're at work in the orchard, you're practicing right now. Whatever you're doing as you go through the day, make it a right now kind of practice. That's how it becomes timeless. It is in the timelessness of the Dhamma that the noble quality of the Dhamma comes out. It really does raise the level of your mind. It pulls you away from your old feeding habits, from your old attachments, and it gives you freedom of a very noble sort. The true Dhamma has disappeared. The Dhamma as the truth, is something that's always in the world. In one of the suttas that we chant, the Buddha says that whether Tathagatas arise or don't arise, there are truths that are always true across the board. All fabrications are inconstant. All fabrications are stressful. All Dhammas are not self. Those things are always true. But teachings about the Dhamma are not always here. As the Buddha foresaw, his teachings would disappear. He called that the disappearance of the Saddhamma, the disappearance of the true Dhamma. He knew that it would have to happen, just as it happened to the true Dhamma, taught by all the Buddhas of the past. What's interesting is how he defines the disappearance of the true Dhamma. He says that when counterfeit Dhamma appears, the true Dhamma disappears, in the same way that when counterfeit money appears, true money disappears. Think about that for a minute. The simple existence of counterfeit money doesn't mean that there's no true money out there. It simply means that you've got to be very careful. You can't blindly trust your money anymore. You can't just take it out of your pocket and use it to buy things. You have to examine it carefully. And you can't accept money from just anybody. You've got to test it. The same is true when counterfeit Dhamma appears. Think about what it was like when the Buddha was awakened and there were arahants all over northern India. You could listen to their Dhamma and trust it. There are suttas in the canon where a person asks a series of questions of one of the Buddha's disciples and then goes to the Buddha, asks the same questions, and gets precisely the same answers. That's what it was like when the true Dhamma had not yet disappeared. The Dhamma was always consistent. You may remember the story from the canon of the blind men and the elephant. Originally, it was used to describe sectarians of other religions and the fact that their grasp of the Dhamma was very partial at best. One blind man feels the elephant's trunk and says that the elephant's like a hose. Another one feels the tail and says, the elephant's like a broom. Then they fight over whether the elephant's like a hose or a broom. Well, in the Chinese version of this story, the blind men represent not sectarians of other religions, but Buddhist teachers. Everyone's take on the Dhamma, whether they're Buddhist or not, is, according to this version, partial. That's what happens when true Dhamma disappears. Every version of the Dhamma gets regarded as counterfeit. When people get used to counterfeit Dhamma, then even when they encounter true Dhamma, it sounds counterfeit to them. But from the Buddha's perspective, even when counterfeit Dhamma has arisen, there are still some versions of the Dhamma that are true. You simply have to learn how to recognize what's true and what's counterfeit, and watch out for any counterfeit that comes your way. And you have to be especially insistent in drawing a line between what's true and what's not. We can't simply say, well, let's all agree that everybody's Dhamma is okay. That way we can get along without arguing. That would be like saying that all money, whether true or counterfeit, is equal. But it's not. If the money's counterfeit and you take it back to the treasury, they won't accept it. If you practice counterfeit Dhamma, you won't get to the end of suffering. It simply won't work. It's like Ajahn Chah's simile of salt and sand. We could get people to agree that sand is salt, and for the purposes of discussion, sand would then be salt. But you couldn't use the sand to make your food salty. Agreeing that something is something else may help us get along, but it doesn't make it act like something else. Our agreeing on something doesn't make it true. So you've got to be really careful. In some cases, counterfeit Dhamma is pretty obviously counterfeit. I was recently reading someone saying that the Buddha was so down on sex and lust because he had spent too much time with his austerities. Now, back in the days of the Buddha, that opinion would have been laughed out of the Sangha. But the sad truth is that at present, there are people who are happy to give it credence. Even obviously false Dhamma isn't all that obvious to some, especially when it panders to their defilements. There's a story about a novice staying out in the woods, and a Prince Jayasena, comes along, walking for exercise in the morning. The prince says to the novice, "I'd like to ask you a question." Now, this novice apparently had already had some experience dealing with Prince Jayasena, because he responds, "I'd rather not answer your question, because you wouldn't understand the answer." And the prince says, "Well, I might." So the novice says, "Okay, I'll answer your question, but don't argue, okay?" The prince says, "Okay. The question is this. I understand that there are monks who have overcome sensual desire. Is this true?" And the novice says, "Yes, it is." And the prince says, "That's not possible," and walks away. The novice then goes and reports his conversation to the Buddha, and the Buddha says, "You fool. You can't teach that teaching to the prince. There's no way he's going to understand it. He's too blind." In other words, back in that day, people understood what blindness was. Nowadays they don't. They take their blindness and advertise it as a perceptive insight. That's a relatively obvious case. A lot of other cases, though, are not quite so obvious. This means that as you listen to the Dhamma or look for a teacher, you have to be extra careful, and especially careful about your motivation for choosing one version of the Dhamma over another. Don't go for something just because it makes you feel good. Remember the two qualities that the Buddha looked for in a student. The first is that you be really honest, and particularly honest about your own failings and weaknesses. The second is that you be observant. You watch things carefully. Try to look for the telltale signs that show what's true Dhamma and what's not, both in other people and in yourself, but primarily in yourself, because that's where it's easiest to be fooled. If you aren't honest and observant about yourself, it's going to be hard to be honest and observant about other people. Your own blind spots will help you miss the blind spots in other people as well. So you have to be extra careful as you practice. I know in my own case, studying with Ajahn Fuang, I thought that by the time I started studying with him, I had pretty much already tamed my own pride. But he found instances of my pride that I hadn't seen and dug them out to show to me. That was a real gift. I didn't like seeing those things. I didn't like having them pointed out, but I learned and benefited from the experience. He had another student, someone who was really nice, very polite, extremely helpful to other people. But deep down inside, she believed that she was a non-returner. Now, Ajahn Fuang tried to get the message through to her in all kinds of ways that she wasn't, but she just blocked out his message. Something inside of her wanted to hold on to that so fiercely that she refused to hear the blatant messages he was sending her way. There was something inside her that wasn't quite observant, quite honest, and so she never learned the lesson. Almitistin. So now that the true Dhamma's disappeared in the Buddha's sense, we have to be very careful when we look for it. We have to test it as much as we can, test ourselves as much as we can. The teachings on mindfulness, the teachings on concentration and discernment, they're all there to make you a more reliable observer of what's going on in yourself, so that you can see cause and effect, so that you can see those truths of inconstancy, stress, and not self, and use them as tools. When you get the mind really still and you think that everything is totally still and there's nothing going on in there, watch, look, be very careful, be very discerning. You think you've gone beyond time and space. Well, look around. Is there any inconstancy in that state of mind? Any little blips here or there? If there's a blip, what goes along with the blip? That's inconstancy. It's telling you that there's something fishy going on in here. Look for the cause. If there's any rise or fall in the level of stress, something's going on. It may be quick, it may be subtle. And as I've said, you've got to be extra careful in this time, now that the true Dhamma has disappeared. In other words, it's not obviously everywhere. You have to be very selective. So try to develop your honesty and your powers of observation. Try to develop your mindfulness, alertness, your ardency, the quality that says, in Ajahn Mun's words, I don't want to come back and be the laughingstock of the defilements ever again. Greed, aversion, delusion, pride, these things have been laughing at us for a long time. And over the centuries, they've managed to create a lot of counterfeit Dhamma to make it even harder for us to ferret things out, to recognize them for what they are. So this throws you back on your own honesty and integrity. You've got to be really selective, very discerning. Develop the qualities that can make you selective and discerning. And that will allow you to find the true Dhamma that's still there.